Hello, Joaquin.
Hello, Shane. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Uh, and you too. I'm really well this morning. It's after quite a few days of rain and overcast I'm in Los Angeles at the moment. I've just got back from England and it's blue skies and fluffy white clouds and lots of lovely natural light, which is my favorite light to do interviews in or real time interviews or talks or chats. So we got lucky today, Joaquin.
Thank you very much. That is amazing to meet you. So
Yes.
really, well, uh, the first question I have for you is, were
Mhm.
you familiar with the Star Wars universe when we got the role of Lakesis? Did you know Ahsoka's character or was it news to you?
Well, I, of course, was very familiar with the Star Wars universe. Um, when the original Star Wars came out in the 70s, it was, pretty much a revolutionary exploration of science fiction and other worlds. And I've long been a fan of science fiction and mythology and fantasy. And of course, I went and saw Star Wars, the original, and became enamored by the storytelling of the characters and the world that was created. And I look back on that, and I think because it was so real, it was such a real world presentation. Um, one could quite easily imagine being a part of that world, even as a viewer. And uh, of course, I never imagined that some way down the track that I would have an opportunity to be a small part of that amazing universe. Um, and when many years after the first Star Wars and my first introduction as an audience member and as a fan, I'm here, working all over the world as an actor, and this audition comes across my desk, and it didn't have a name, and it wasn't. It just had the brief just sort of had a name that wasn't the name of the character, and there wasn't a lot of information about what the job was for. And it just was very intriguing. And I'd been requested to audition by a casting director who I don't know personally, but I know their reputation and that they represent
Yeah.
you know, rather large television shows. So my manager said and suggested that I should do it. I said, yes, okay, I will. So I didn't even know the name Lakesis. I didn't know the name of the show or the role, but the brief was very intriguing and it was tapping into a part of my history as a performing artist. Many, many years ago, when I was very young, I did a lot of dance and a lot of movement classes as a young teenager actor in Australia. And I thought, oh, I can do this. But I don't know what it's for, and I have no idea what I'm auditioning for, but I'll give it a go. So I did. It was quite a protracted audition process. I probably submitted about, I would say, round about 11 self-tapes. And then when obviously casting was complete and the offer came through, I was, as you can imagine, it was just the most amazing opportunity to first of all, I thought, have you got the right, you got the right actor? Really? So once that hit and landed, I couldn't believe that I was going to get an opportunity like that. And I accepted, of course. And it was only until we started to get involved in pre-production that disclosures were made about the role, where my character and my fellow Night Sisters, where we came in the story of where AHSOKA was going to be placed in that universe. And it dawned on me very suddenly and very quickly that I was going to not only be a part of this amazing Star Wars universe, I was going to be afforded the privilege of creating a role. And that is something that I love to do. And it was just overwhelming for about 7 minutes. And then the reality set in. I thought, right, let's go to work. It was great.
It was fantastic. I can imagine.
It really, really was.
Yeah.
And we started the process of working towards what eventually was on screen. That process started some months before with the creation of the costumes and the gradual dissemination to cast members, myself, about where Lakesis was going to be placed within the framework of AHSOKA, the relationships with my fellow Night Sisters, where we came in relationship to all the other characters started to filter through. But the genesis of the real work and preparation started with the costuming, which was so detailed, so intricate, so artful and thoughtful. To be a part of just that process, I found very thrilling. Just as a little sidebar, much of my training and my beginnings as an actor is with theatre, and not only in Australia, but in England as well, many years ago now, of course. And those elements of theatre, like costuming and props, they are just such important guides to who you are and as the character, and how you might go about creating the character, the life of the character. And so to be a part of the costuming of my character for Star Wars, AHSOKA, was such a thrill. And to meet the costume team and the costume designer, it was just, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I would be standing there in this incredible facility, which was dedicated to costumes and props, personal props, and for Star Wars. But I was getting to be involved in that process, because that doesn't always happen in film and television. It just depends on, often here in America, I've been now working in America for just going on 11 years. So a lot of my TV and film work, especially my TV work, has been guest roles and co-star roles. So you'll be brought in on an 8 episode series, and you might really only be in 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 if you're lucky. They might recur you. And so your costume, your wardrobe is handed to you. You go for a fitting. But here I was at the very, very beginning of that process. And it was such a thrill, such a privilege to be involved. And it gave me so much to go on, because the character of Lakesis comes out of a whole background and a whole prehistory of Night Sisters and et al. I won't go on about that, because those of you who are Star Wars fans, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, but I did have to do a lot of backstory on all that to feed my own life of Lakesis. Where does Lakesis come from? Who is she? How did she get here on Dathomir? All those sorts of things, which again, I love to do. So it was right in my wheelhouse. And the costuming, of course, was very progressive. I think I had maybe 4 costume meetings, and each time there'd be something else was done, that the headgear, the gauntlets that Lakesis has, the jewelry applique, the whole building and making of it was complex and quite delicious to be a part of. And it gave me so much. I thought, oh, okay, she's going to have gauntlets. All right. Right. She's been a warrior. And now she's progressed and become assimilated as a Night Sister. She's been leveled up and been initiated into the sisterhood. And she's fought as a younger entity. She's been a warrior. And so that was how I had my entree into actually, getting my scripts, getting my call sheets and turning up for work on day one. And I'm going to have a sort of talk. I'm hazard a guess, but I'm willing to bet it's an educated guess. All the other actors had the same experience, and I'm sure they would have their own way of expressing it, which is to be respected, of course. But if it happened for me, it would have happened for them. And I found that as an entree, as a first-time actor in Star Wars, I found that process so valuable and so wonderful as a pathway in. By the time I got to set, first day of my filming, I was so prepared and I was so ready to go. And I loved being involved in that process, because you don't always get that privilege. You don't always get that opportunity.
That's a wonderful experience. Thank you for all the details.
Oh, it was my pleasure to be able to speak about it, because I can now, you see, because it's gone to air. Because we all have to sign a non-disclosure agreement these days. You can't talk about anything, which I'm very, very respectful, and I I adhere to 100%. But now that it's out there, I'm very happy to share
Okay.
those sorts of experiences because it's very enriching for you and also for the audience who love
Yes,
Star Wars.
totally.
They don't get to see that, and they shouldn't either, because that's our job. But I know because I've had people, post on my Instagram about this, that, and the other, and how they, really loved hearing me talk about this, that, and the other. And I thought, oh, great, because I love talk. That's the stuff I actually do love talking about. Love the acting of it, love the creating of it, but I also love talking about how it is that we go about doing those things, because um it's so it's so exciting and so thrilling to be a part of the actual creating. The cherry on top is getting the call sheet and going to set and playing with all these other fabulous actors, and people really being so dedicated and so into what they're doing. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's create this stuff and make it fantastic. And that's quite a thrill. It's a privilege
Yeah,
for me. It's a
yeah,
tremendous privilege. Yeah.
can imagine. Jane, the Great Mothers are a representation of the fates of the Greek culture. How did you handle Lakesis' interpretation in relation to this?
That's a very good question. And if I may, backstory, just as part of my own personal working methodology. It's I never really talk. This is something I never really even share with anyone else, because it's just the work that I do and it helps me. I always, particularly with a character that is grounded and has grassroots in such a um, large, already established universe. How do I go about finding a way to, where is my place? Where did I come from? So I always, faced with that challenge and that research, that homework, if you like, we'll put it under that term, because I'm sure we all understand the term homework. I do what's called, I have my own workbooks. I'm very visual. I'm very visual in a very colorful sort of brain. So I did a lot of research on the three fates from Greek and Roman mythology. Both Roman and Greek
Yes,
mythology have this concept, this idea of the three fates that um, uh, have dominion in the mythology. They have dominion over a man's life. I'm using that in the older sense of man or woman or humanity life. Each person, the three fates have a particular job to do. One is to spin, the other is to measure, and one is to cut. So for Lachesis, it made tremendous sense that I was uh, the fate that measured out a person's life, because it worked in with the dialogue, which technically, in terms of words on the page, was quite sparse, but very judiciously inserted into the action. And as a young entity defending the sisterhood, I was a warrior that fought in the wars to protect the sisterhood. I was there measuring out people's life when I'm fighting. And so a highly skilled warrior knows precisely and exactly the time they want to strike and fell their opponent. So that is where Lakesis came in to the three fates. And someone else playing Lakesis would have a completely different take on that, and that's absolutely fine. It's just that it's my take. And so I'm absolutely delighted that you asked me about the correlation between the three Night Sisters in AHSOKA and the mythological grounding in the three fates. And if I had my workbook with me, it's actually back in Sydney, Australia, because I had a job back there, and I sort of take my workbook with me. And it's full up now. So next job I get this year, whenever I start a whole new workbook. But I would love to show you the photos of the three fates in relation to me. I drew myself as Lakesis, mostly channeling my gauntlets. There was some things about my costume that I wasn't allowed to, disclose, but I knew I had fitted this on, and they were fitting a hood and an encapsulating my throat, and I had a flat top, and that was interesting. And for me, so I channeled all that, and found enormous grounding and what I call grassroots in mythology, and in the mythology of the three fates, who have, as I say, in mythology, they have the dominion over humanity's lifespan, a man's life, a woman or a man's lifespan. And I'm fascinated that you asked me that question. Thank you. That's incredibly perceptive of you. That's a fabulous question. No one's asked me that, Joaquin.
Okay, thank you for that.